If you're a regular gym goer, chances are you're going to start to see the same people day in, day out, month in, month out. But you're going to notice something. You're going to realize that these folks, they're making progress. They're making gains. They're losing weight. But you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're stuck and you just end up quitting. Many people go through this. I definitely know that feeling. Over the past 20 years or so, I've studied countless hours from professionals and sports science PhDs, and I noticed most people make the exact same mistake. So today I want to do something a little different. I want to talk to you guys exactly about what it takes to be successful. And I want to do that by summing up my 20-year journey in one short video. Hopefully, you guys can apply this information to your own lives and save some time because I know I've wasted so much time, so much energy through trial and error. I definitely don't want that for you folks. So, I got started somewhere around 15, 16 years old. And by the way, if you follow along in this timeline, you're probably going to get a pretty good idea of how old I am. But somewhere around 15, 16, I got started, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I played all sorts of street ball from football to handball, but nothing really organized. And I even did a little karate, which was fun, but, I wanted more. So, I started buying all those workout magazines and I decided, I want to look like this guy on the cover. So at the time I was probably about a buck 30, buck 40 and about 5'6", maybe 5'7". It wasn't happening. I had long arms, long legs, a short torso, definitely wasn't the bodybuilder type. But I can guarantee you that those magazines, they did their jobs, selling you on hopes and dreams. So, I went up to my parents and I was like, hey, can you buy me the hottest thing? And at that time I think it was Bowflex actually. And of course they said no. They got me like Bow Flux or something. It definitely wasn't Bowflex. But anyway, I made it work. I grabbed my little rubber bands, put them on there, called up my friends. And if any of you have teenagers, you probably already know that this wasn't going to last very long. Maybe about a couple of months or so. And that was it. I was done. But I always kept reading those magazines, and I always still again wanted to know more, and so fast forward about 3 years and I end up in the sunny South. And I'm like, you know what? I want to work out. So I find a gym, get some buddies, and we're back at it again. But this time I start seeing some really good gains because I was taking it serious. I was doing it for a while. My upper body started growing, my arms started looking really good, my back started filling out. But for some reason, for the life of me, I could not find out why my legs weren't growing. It was baffling. I would go to the gym every day. I would eat everything in sight, but I realized something. I wasn't working legs for like a whole 2 years, maybe even longer than that. I couldn't even remember. I ended up looking like Johnny Bravo. For those of you who know who Johnny Bravo is, it got to the point where I had to wear pants all the time because I was embarrassed that my upper body was muscular and my legs were super skinny. But I did it to myself. Every once in a while, I would throw in legs, but I cannot say that I worked legs religiously. And even though I didn't work legs, I was still consistent in my upper body, right? Until everything came to a screeching halt. I ended up starting school and I ended up starting work, a new career. And at the time, life got in the way. And I remember thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get back at it? It was hard, between that, my social life, my family life. At one point, I had 3 jobs. Eventually, I had to give it up. I stopped working out and became part of Gen Pop. But in time, I did get my life back in order. I was able to scale down the jobs, and believe it or not, I decided to take up jujitsu, judo, and kempo. And it was great. I loved it so much that I actually thought I was going to open up a school of my own. I did my fair share of competitions, won some, lost some. We won't talk about that. But, I realized something. I realized how important leg strength is when it comes to martial arts. So, I was able to get back in the gym and I realized that a lot of my workouts, they're now designed to staying in shape for judo. So, the necessity of the sport's going to demand me to change my workout routine. So, again, back to leg presses and stuff like that. And I was pretty consistent for a few years. Moving down the timeline a little bit, my wife and I started meeting some really cool friends that like to hang out at the beach and go to pool parties and stuff like that. We liked it so much that we actually moved to where the action is. And now I decided I want to look good now. You're out there in the beach, in the pool, you want to look good with your shirt off. I really wasn't too interested in continuing my martial art career at this time. And to be honest with you guys, in hindsight, I really wish I did. But, it's too late for that. So we move, ready to have a good time, party our asses off, and you wouldn't believe what happens. Life throws you a curveball, right? We're blessed with a little one. It's a good curveball. So party plans go out the window, but what doesn't go out the window is our fitness goals. We just have to change. We have to adapt. You walk, you stretch, you bike, whatever. But I can tell you for myself, at that time, I decided I've come too far. I was hooked. I was addicted to the iron. I still went to the gym whenever I can, but again, it was hard, even with the little one. I remember going to the kids club, dropping him off, and getting a text message not even 15 minutes later that the dude wouldn't stop crying. And so, my workout was canceled. Like I said, it was hard, but we made it work. I stumbled across a YouTube channel by the name of Elliot Hulse, if I pronounced that correctly. He said something that stuck with me, and it stuck with me because it was opposite of what all those flex magazines I used to read back in the day. When he said, be the best version of yourself. And I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that before. From that point on, I decided to be really smart about my training. So I wanted to do things a little differently. So I grabbed any book I can find and started listening to the early works of like 3DMJ and Ben Pakulski. 3DMJ talks about the muscle and strength pyramid, which literally breaks down the most and least important things when it comes to your training. Things like adherence, which is the most important, not sexy, but the most important. And things like tempo, which still needed, but not as important when it comes to, making progress. And once I started making these changes, I saw incredible gains in my physique, even with having a little kid. But life's funny sometimes, right? Guess what happens? I lose my job. I've been in my career for about 10 plus years now, and I'm forced to start over. Now, lucky enough, a buddy of mine who hooks me up with a job right away, and I also decided at the time to go back to nursing school. Now, anyone who's ever been in nursing school and worked at the same time, leave a comment and let the folks know. And I'm not kidding, it is no joke. I literally lived off of Sudafed and Red Bull just to get me through school, balance the family, and keep my workouts going. But in order to make it work, I had to start going to the gym at 5 in the morning. And if you've never been into the gym at 5 a.m., depending on where you live, it's just as crowded as 5 p.m. I mean, I remember sitting in my car waiting for the employees to open the door like it was old school Black Friday and everybody rushing in to get to the machines. It was nuts. I would have never believed it. And you know what? I kept it going and I did it all throughout school. I kept my gains. I sort of kind of kept my six pack, but I probably damaged my heart in the process, messing with all that Red Bull and Sudafed. And then one day, one of my workout buddies like, "Hey, have you ever done Tough Mudder before?" And I was like, "What's that?" And once he showed me what it was, an entire new world opened up. And remember what I said earlier in the video that the necessity of the sport demanded me to change my workout routine. Guess what? It was time for another change. And I don't care what you say. Hypertrophy training isn't going to prepare you to scale 7 foot walls. So we had to adjust. But the good news is we did it in a group. We had about a group of 30 plus friends and we all did races together initially. The training was more like hill sprints, burpees, air dying bikes, rope pulls, bear crawls, you name it. And if you ever done one of these races, you know what I'm talking about. The good news is that I was able to keep my fat levels down. I still look good, I looked thin, but I wasn't training specifically for hypertrophy or strength. So anytime I decided to go to the gym and just kind of like I have an off training day and go back and, let's say hit some deadlifts, I can feel it. I can definitely tell that I wasn't training specifically for that movement. But on the flip side, I found myself running 5 to 8 miles a week, training for this thing when previously when I was doing hypertrophy training, I'd be lucky if I can get a mile in. Since I'm already up at 5 to 8 miles a week preparing for this Tough Mudder, somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, have you ever done a full marathon before?" And I was like, "Hell no." Listen, I had no interest in running 26 point something miles just for fun. But I got talked into doing the 2009 Disney Marathon. And if you've never prepared for a marathon before, let me tell you what you're going to lose. You're going to lose your early mornings. These runs and training for a marathon can literally take you up to 4 hours, and if you're horrible like me, even up to 6 hours. I remember running with a buddy of mine trying to prepare for this thing, and I'm up at 5 in the morning, trying to get to the 15th mile, 16th mile, 20th mile just to get ready for this marathon. Something else you're going to lose is, get ready for this. You're going to lose your strength. Okay. There's no way that you can be able to balance both making increased gains in your deadlift, let's just say, and also be able to extend out your miles and go from 15 miles to 20 miles. It's just not happening. But I can tell you, you're going to gain a few things. You're going to gain the ability to eat just about anything you want. I literally became a furnace. I was so hungry after a lot of these runs. Now, of course, again, sensible eating, but I definitely, when I was hungry, I didn't hold back. You gain a sense of euphoria. I mean, when you're running on perfect days and listening to music, it was great. You meet new running partners, you gain new friends, and then you get quality time for the family. I remember putting my son on a bike, and on the shorter runs, of course, he would bike and keep up with me, and I would run. you gain a new respect for biofreeze. I didn't even know what that thing was, but biofreeze and my knees became, pretty much best friends. So now here I am at 4 in the morning. I find myself getting ready to run this marathon, not really knowing how it's going to turn out. Will I die? Will I get picked up by the van? Will my knees fall off? I mean, who knows? But I did it. I completed it and it was done. Would I do it again? No. Would I recommend anyone who wants to do it? Yeah, I would. It was a fun experience, seeing the characters out there and stuff like that. It was great. A tour of the park. If anybody needs to run a marathon, that would definitely be it. Unfortunately, I can tell you my feet hurt so bad the next day, I literally could not stand on them. But, once it was all over and I healed back up, I was really happy to get back to where I belonged, and that was lifting weights. And at this point, I decided my goal was going to be to get back to where I was before I started running. And to do that, I started to absorb and take in as much knowledge as I possibly could. I started reading books by Brad Schoenfeld or Greg Knuckles. I started listening to videos by Starting Strength and Renaissance Periodization. And over time, I did. I gained everything back and then some. And I really got to the point where going to the gym and being physically fit has become part of my life. So I plan my workout sessions in advance. So if I knew, for example, that I had something coming up, maybe an event or something like that, I would end up going to the gym early in the morning, or I would plan it in the evening. Even when I was on vacation, I would try to plan something at that time. I've even been to the gym on cruises. Now, I know some of you guys may think that's crazy, but I have. It's a part of me at this point. So now my kid's old enough to play soccer. My workouts have to adapt because I made that decision that I want to be a part of his life. So we're going to do these workouts together. So we started him early, and all we really did was just play tag and get athletic and learn how to fall or learn how to run faster and just get him acclimated to the sport. But as he got older, we started introducing new things like box jumps, sled pushes, banded sprints, uphill sprints, and at this point now he's getting older, I'm getting older, right? And I have to pay attention to injury risks, but he also wants to go faster. So I remember, racing him in uphill sprints, and I pulled my hamstring not once, but twice. It was crazy. And one of those pulls was, it lasted a while, and I really had to adjust. I wasn't doing many leg workouts at the time, back to not doing leg workouts again. And I was really focusing on upper body movements. But I still took him out, on a bike ride, and I let him run and stuff like that. We still kept active. Now, if you haven't realized, there's a common theme I'm trying to share with you is that you need to find a reason to want it. It's those reasons that are going to help you avoid life's curveballs, right? You can easily say, I can't make it, but you need to find a reason to make it. Now, honestly, my reasons earlier on were all vain. I just wanted to look good. But, now 20, 30 years later, all I want to do is just rub it in my son's face that I'm still faster than him. And if you haven't figured out yet exactly what you need to be successful, I'm just going to break it down for you real quick. So here we go. Number one, you're going to need to commit. Like I said earlier in the video, adherence. You have to stick to it. Those folks that you saw in the gym on day one, and now they're still there on year two, and they've made all those gains or lost all that weight. That's because they stuck with it. Once you get that down packed, you can drill down to more specifics. Maybe you want to run faster. Maybe you want to get stronger. Maybe you want to grow muscle. It's entirely up to you, but you can't do any of that if you're not sticking with the plan. So if you're still here with us at this point in the video, I want to thank you for listening to my story. And I'm really hoping that you're able to take something away from this that makes your fitness journey a lot easier.